Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell, so you always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my loves. So this is another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast for the week of July 10th through July 16th, 2023. So hopefully you guys have had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully the week has started off well for you. We've got a couple of energy shifts this week. Things are going to get a little interesting. Nothing too heavy, but interesting energy shifts nonetheless. All right. So let's let the good people over on Twitter know that we are live. Okay. Maybe they'll show up if they want to. And as always, before we get into all of the details, let's take care of some housekeeping and some announcements. All right. So first and foremost, if you are joining me here on the live this evening, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate it more than you know. Feel free to say hello on your way in, hit up the chat. And as always, hit that like button on your way in as well. All right. And if you are watching this on the replay, thank you for tuning in as well. I appreciate you just as much. All right. Hopefully you will find this to be valuable, insightful. Maybe you'll get some confirmation. Maybe you'll get some clarity. Maybe you'll get all of the above. That is my intention for all of you with these broadcasts. All right. So sit back, relax, grab some snacks, grab a drink, get comfortable because we're talking astrology tonight. All right. So let's see who we've got in the house so far. The chat is pretty active tonight. All right, guys, what's going on? We have Respectfully Cicada. Hello. We've got Linda J, as always. Hello, my friend. Patricia Jean. We've got Ramel. We've got Geometric Sphere. All right. We've got Sacred Roots. Excited to be here. You say, I'm excited to have you here. All right. All right. So new faces tonight. I'm super excited. All right. Hopefully you guys like this broadcast. Hopefully you get some good information. All right. Okay. The chat is really... Oh, thank you, Linda. I'm trying to look cute these days. I have to say, like, I've entered a point in time where, and I think some of you may relate to this, when you're on your spiritual journey and you're really in the thick of it, right? Like you are, getting downloads, you are, receiving messages, you're healing, all of that stuff. It usually requires a bit of isolation, right? Like we'll just be sort of sequestered and just doing our work, keeping our head down. And I know for me during that time, I really didn't care what I looked like. And it shows because I look back at some of these lives and I'm like, I showed up looking kind of rough. I was looking real, but I was looking kind of rough. And I've gotten to a point now where I'm sort of being pushed by spirit to get out more. I'm sort of like the hibernation, the hermit mode is kind of over and it's time to really be outside. And spirit is like, but I'm going to need you to step up the aesthetics a little bit. So I'm trying to look a little cuter, trying to get myself together. So yeah, thank you for noticing. I truly appreciate that. All right. All right. So in terms of announcements, let's see what we got going on. So for those of you who don't know, apart from just astrology and stuff like that, I also offer products. I make handmade luxury candles, and currently I am having a semi-annual sale where all candles are 40% off. No code needed. The discount is automatically applied at checkout. You can check my shop in the link here on YouTube where you can see all of the candles that I have to offer. Semi-annual sale. It lasts until Friday, but it may go a little longer, right? So if you're interested, check that out. All right. Let's see. Do we have any other announcements? No, not really. Not anything other than the usual, right? So if you're someone who's into astrology and you would like to get your horoscope, you should definitely consider subscribing to my text service where you get your weekly horoscope texted every Monday morning. All right. It's quick, it's dirty, it's to the point. People seem to really like it. They say that it's really accurate. So if you are interested, you will want to text the word ZODIAC to the number 855-826-5544. put in your sun or rising sign, whichever you want to receive your horoscope for, and then you will be subscribed and you will get your horoscope every Monday morning. All right. And if you missed that, that information will be in the description box below. All right. And also, if you are someone who is new to astrology and you have no idea what's going on, there are all these terms and you're just like, what is this? Or even if you are not new to astrology, but you realize that it's a lot and it takes a lot to sort of memorize and sort of get everything down pat, I got you covered. I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, where I basically break down the 4 pillars of astrology, namely the planets, the houses, the zodiac signs, and the aspects. All right. So it's an 11-page PDF document that just gives you a summary of what all these things are so that you can start committing them to memory, because regardless of what anyone says or doesn't say, astrology is indeed a science. And like any science, requires a good deal of study. And so to get you on your studying journey and learning astrology, you can definitely get this Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet. And if you're interested, the link to that will be in the description box below. All you need to do is drop your email and you will be good to go. All right. All right. So let's get into it. So let's see, what do we have going on last week? So last week, I believe we had that full moon in Capricorn. So we're still coming off of that energy. And this week we've got 2 planets changing signs. And I feel like the energy of these 2 planetary shifts is going to be pretty interesting. So today we have Mars moving into Virgo. And for better or for worse, this is a pretty interesting transit because it's almost like the juxtaposition of 2 almost completely different energies. Mars is very fiery. It's very get up and go. It's very sexual. It's very physical. It's in your face and bold. And Virgo is kind of the opposite. While Virgo loves to work and be organized, Virgo is more practical. It's not as fiery. It's not as fired up. It's very earthy, almost a little bit demure. It's very service oriented. So when Mars goes into Virgo, we have this interesting juxtaposition of energy that just is interesting, to say the least. But it can also produce a lot, okay? And so Mars is going to be in Virgo for a little while. So we've got some time to get acclimated to the energy, but also to use it to our advantage, all right? And I'll get more into that later. And then we also have Mercury moving into Leo. So this month, I want to say between last month and this month, we have this emphasis on Leo energy. So we had Venus moving into Leo, which is remaining there until October. So Leo, wherever Leo is in your chart, it's definitely going to be lit because Venus is hanging out there for a while. But then we also have Mercury moving into Leo, okay? And then we are going to have the sun moving into Leo later this month. So this is the time when this Leo energy is really prominent in our lives, meaning that this is the time to really get heart-centered. It's the time to really speak from the heart. It's a time that has an emphasis on relationships. It's also a time to have fun. Like Leo is definitely emblematic of summertime energy. And with Mercury going into Leo, this is going to help us have the courage to speak from the heart, okay? And so with Venus in Leo about to go retrograde and now Mercury going into Leo, I swear you are going to have some people reveal some things to you, okay? People are really going to be getting things off their chest that maybe they didn't get to do the first time around. People are really going to be opening up their hearts. Like it could be a very beautiful transit. This could be a very beautiful month if you let it, all right? And then other than that, we've got some, run-of-the-mill kind of transits this week. But we also have the chance to really get in tune and really aligned with where we're going because we have some planets and points hitting the North Node. And whenever we have North Node activity, it's urging us to follow our North Star, all right? And so it's a time when we can really get in alignment with what we're here to do. And this is especially important this week because this is the last week when the North Node is going to be in Taurus. Next week, we have a major energy shift because the North Node is going to be moving into a different sign, all right? And I'll be talking all about that in next week's weekly astro forecast. But for this week, wherever Taurus is in your chart, it's sort of like the closing of a chapter and maybe doing some last minute cleanup or doing some last minute things before the nodes change signs. All right. So it's pretty I'm not going to say it's pivotal energy, but it is something worth noticing and it is something worth taking advantage of. But I will get into all of that in a second. All right. And then other than that, we really just have, the run of the mill kind of stuff, nothing too crazy. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about the highlights first, and then we'll get into the week in detail. All right. So we have what I like to call first, which is get to work. All right. And this is Mars in Virgo. So with Virgo being a sign that is all about organization, it's all about efficiency, and Mars being a sign of like physical force, this may be physically getting to work, all right? And especially depending on wherever Virgo is in your chart, this could be physically organizing, physically cleaning up, but there's a lot more to Mars and Virgo than meets the eye, all right? So essentially speaking, Mars and Virgo is really about putting in the work towards something that we're passionate about, like being practical and sort of analyzing the situation in a practical way. But it's analyzing a situation that you're particularly passionate about, or maybe a desire that you have, all right? Having this motivation for efficiency. So wherever Virgo is in your chart, this may give you like an adrenaline boost, right? It may put a battery in your back in terms of getting up and getting organized, cleaning up, taking care of things, getting things in order, right? So again, take a look at where Virgo is in your natal chart. That's where you're going to feel this burst of energy with this planetary transit. Then we have what I like to call roar. And this is Mercury going into Leo, okay? So whenever Mercury is in Leo, our talking is grand. It's sort of over the top, very theatrical. It also gets you to exercise your throat chakra, right? Lions roar, super loud, right? And that's sort of how our communication style is when Mercury is in Leo. We have the audacity to be audacious, basically, right? So apart from people just spilling their guts to you, right? Opening their hearts and spilling their guts, people might be really like on some shit. People may really be on one and really be speaking, maybe roaring at you. People may really be getting loud. People may be getting, dramatic. Like people may be blowing things out of proportion. So Mercury in Leo definitely tends to be a very interesting transit. All right. But by and large, I feel like it's one of those transits where we can really speak authentically. If you use the energy for what it's sort of there for, you can definitely speak authentically, which can create tighter bonds, especially in the romance department. So look out for some of that. Then we have what I like to call forward March, all right? And this is going to be the North Node transits. So whatever's transpiring this week with respect to the North Node is really getting us to move forward, okay? We're going to have opportunities and I think situations that provide us with a lot of clarity, okay? Clarity and motivation. So it's not even just about understanding, okay, this is what I need to do, but it's also having the drive and the motivation to actually go toward it, okay? But there also may be this tendency to overthink things a bit and to be a little like, okay, I know what I have to do, but sort of trying to put all the puzzle pieces together at one time, right? And so that may cause a little bit of like analysis paralysis, or people may be stopped dead in their tracks because you may feel like you have this whole clarity about your purpose, but it's a little bit overwhelming, all right? And so that's one thing to look out for this week. But also, again, even with these North Node transits, it's all about getting to work. There's something about this time right now, despite the fact that it's summer, right? Because summer, really, people like to tend to relax. They don't want to work as hard or as much. But with Mars and Virgo, you may be doing work, but it's work that you're passionate about. With these Leo, with these planets in Leo and all this Leo energy, you're doing things that you're also passionate about, right? So it's getting to work, but when you're working on the right thing, when you're in alignment, when you're in purpose, when you're on purpose, it doesn't necessarily feel like work. And I feel like that's one of the litmus tests, is if what you're doing feels like a chore, if it feels arduous, if it feels like you don't want to do it, you might not be in alignment. Because when you're in alignment, it's not to say that when you're on purpose that, you don't have to do things that you're only doing things that you want to do. Of course, when you're living in your purpose, there are things that are routine. There are things that you may not feel like doing at the time. But overall and in general, you feel good about what you're doing when you're in alignment. So that kind of lets you know what you're working with and where you're at. All right. So With that being said, let's take a look at the week in detail and see what we've got going on. All right, so today's the day that we have most of the stuff going on. So we've got Mars enters Virgo. We've got Mercury opposite Pluto. Mars is going to trine the North Node, and the moon is moving into the sign of its exaltation, which is Taurus. Then tomorrow we have Mercury entering Leo, like I mentioned before, and then Mercury will also square the North Node. All right, so we start off the week with kind of feeling like, or at least getting clarity about where we're headed, or at least where we would like to be headed. Then on Wednesday, we've got this Sun square Chiron, which also lends itself to sort of clarity, but a different kind of clarity, which I'll explain in a little bit. Then on Thursday, we've got the moon moving into Gemini. Then Friday, we have the Sun sextile Uranus, and we close out the week on Saturday with the moon in Cancer. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the week. All right, so today we've got Mars entering Virgo, which you will see at the top right-hand portion of the chart. Then you also have Mercury opposite Pluto. Okay, so you have Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn. You'll see that at the left-hand bottom portion of the chart. Mercury is going to be at, did I circle Mercury? I completely forgot to circle Mercury, but Mercury is exactly opposite Pluto, which is at 29 degrees Cancer. Okay. Then we also have Mars, which just moved into Virgo today, is going to be trine to the North Node, which you'll see at the bottom right-hand portion of the chart at 0 degrees Taurus. And the moon is also at 0 degrees Taurus. All right. So a lot going on today. But first, we will start with Mars entering Virgo. Okay, so basically the gist of this transit is that this is putting in work, getting organized, getting efficient, getting a system in place with respect to something that you are passionate about or something that you desire. Okay. Mars is the word that's coming to mind is hedonistic, but not really. Mars is very much rooted in pleasure and rooted in desire. All right. Mars is the planet of sex, like the physical act of sex. So when it comes to our desires and the things that we want, Mars sort of gives us laser-like focus on those things. Like that's all that we could see. It's all that we want. It's all that we're focused on. And it's all that we go toward. Okay. And so when you pair Mars with a sign like Virgo, it's that laser-like focus, but making it in a very practical sort of way. Right. So the perfect example is, let's say that you want to start a business. Your desire is to be an entrepreneur, right? Mars in Virgo is like, okay, what plan of action do I need to enact in order to make that happen? What practical action steps do I need to take in order to go from desire to fruition? Okay. And so the answer to that would be, okay, maybe the first thing you got to do is have a business idea. What do you want to do? Is it service-based or is it product-based? Then when you figure that out, you figure out a name. What are you going to call this thing? What is going to be your brand? What are you going to be known for, right? Then you incorporate. Then you do all of this, right? And then maybe you delegate some tasks to someone. Maybe you go to Fiverr and get someone to do a logo for you. Maybe you get someone to do your website, right? All of these practical action steps is really how Mars in Virgo can really play itself out, okay? But here's the thing. It's like, and Virgo can work. Virgo is a workhorse, right? Because this is something that you truly desire, the motivation is really high right now. And when you pair like high motivation with a sign like Virgo, which is all about working and organizing and efficiency, a lot can be done towards something that you really want to have. Okay. And so keep in mind, Mars is going to be in Virgo from now until August 27th. So we have a good 7 weeks. Right? So if there's something that you were desirous of, if there is something that you truly want, something that you want to achieve, now is going to be the best time to get to work on that thing. And you're going to want to look at where Virgo is in your natal chart, because this will let you know what that thing is. Because remember, you can manifest anything you want at any time, right? But the glory of astrology and of nature in general is that it gives you cycles, right? If you follow nature, It's not every day that you are manifesting a boo. I think I say this all the time. Relationships are always a big thing. Everyone wants to get married. They want to be there with their special person, whatever. There are cycles to things. It's not every cycle that you are manifesting a boo, or it's not even every cycle that you're manifesting money, right? So while you can desire anything, take a look and see at where Virgo is in your chart. And if you have a desire that sort of aligns with that Virgo energy, or the things that house that is Virgo in your natal chart covers, then those are the things that may be easier to work on right now. You may find that you're more motivated to do those kind of things than choosing something that may be the exact opposite. Okay, so that's just a word to the wise. But in any event, it is about working towards things that you are desirous of. Now, there's more, like I said before, there's more to Mars in Virgo than sort of meets the eye. And one of the things that really hit me this afternoon about this particular transit is the topic of health. Virgo as a sign is very health conscious. Virgo is very concerned with her body. She's very concerned with being healthy. So Mars in Virgo, generally speaking, the energy, just the undercurrent of this energy has a lot to do with physical health. So if you want to start a weight loss plan, if you want to start a workout plan, Mars is all about physical activity, especially when it comes to things having to do with strength. So if you want to start weight training, if you want to start training for a marathon, if you just want to get your health on the right track, this is the perfect transit for you, regardless of where this is going down in your chart, because the energy of Virgo has a lot to do with being health conscious. So this is a great time to start I'm not going to say diet. I will say start eating differently. Maybe you want to eat more clean. Maybe you want to eat more plant-based. Maybe you want to, up your protein intake. Maybe you want to start working out every morning. Maybe you just want to go to the doctor. Maybe you haven't been to the doctor in a while, and maybe now would be a good time for, a total, a checkup for everything, right? But I feel like there's this undercurrent of being health conscious, which is going to be very interesting. The other interesting aspect of this particular transit is about sexual health, because while Virgo is health conscious, Mars has a lot to do with sex. So this is a great time for sexual health, right? So keeping yourself safe, keeping yourself clean, checking yourself for any sexually transmitted illnesses, all of that stuff. I feel like sexual health may be a emphasis for some people, or things may just crop up in your life that sort of guide you to really address your sexual health. Or maybe this is a time where you feel like talking about sexual health, okay? But it's an interesting sort of aspect of this particular transit, all right? Apart from that, this is going to be a time, like I said, where you're really working towards the things that you want to achieve. But the way that this transit sort of plays itself out is that you are paying attention to the details, the littlest minute details. This isn't like, okay, I desire to become an entrepreneur, and you're sort of tackling it from a big picture standpoint, because Virgo is all about the details. This is like getting to the very tiniest details, being a perfectionist with every single little thing. So there is this sort of element of tedium that this particular transit invokes. So it's not as Mars can be a very sexy planet depending on what it's doing, right? If it's not fighting, it's effing, basically. So it has that sexy energy to it. But in Virgo, it's like kind of muted. It's very, it's very humdrum. It can be very detail oriented, very looking at the small, fine details and sort of putting one foot in front of the other. But again, the litmus test is if you're doing this and it feels like a chore to you, it feels arduous, then you may not be in alignment with your truest desire. With all of this Leo, with all of this other energy going on, right? Particularly in Leo. Leo is all about being heart-centered, right? And so your desires come from your heart. And so if you're truly in alignment with those desires, paying attention to the littlest details, it's not going to feel like a chore to you. I'll give you a perfect example, a personal example. I remember when I was practicing law, I decided to start a blog. Um, Being a Virgo sun, writing comes naturally to me. I love writing and things like that. And so this blog was such a fun adventure. So I would be working like 12, 14-hour days. And then I would come home at night and I would just be working on this blog and styling it to make it look really nice. I'm a Taurus rising, so I love to make things look pretty and make it look professional and all of that stuff. And I would toil away at this blog. And for some of you here, some of you might actually remember that blog. It was called Brooklyn Legal. And I think it looks pretty good, if I say so myself. If you remember, put in the chat if you remember what it looked like. But I would be working late at night on this thing. And it was fun doing the research for the topics, because I was writing on, fashion and entertainment things within the legal space. It was fun. And finding the right pictures and even, all of the metadata that I had to put with the pictures and everything like that and the SEO and all of that stuff. There's a lot that goes into blog writing, but it was fun. It wasn't a chore. And so that's how you're going to know that this is something that you truly desire, when you're willing to put in the work, when you're willing to, go over the tiniest details and do the littlest changes, right? Because you have that end goal in mind and you are literally just putting one foot in front of the other to make it happen. Now, well, this transit sounds all good, right? Because we're working towards the things that we want. We're being health conscious, all that good stuff. There is a sort of negative side to it, right? And that is the fact that because Virgo is so perfectionist, your motivation, like you just it may be like perfectionism on overdrive, right? Like it just may be a situation where you're looking at the details a little too much and you want to be too perfectionist. And in doing so, you don't really get things done. So the purpose of this is to take that motivation that Mars gives you, allow yourself to focus on the details, but don't get stuck on the smallest things, okay? Another thing that this sort of transit can bring up is OCD, like to the umpteenth degree, okay? So, you don't want to be overly focused, again, on the details. You don't want to get stuck in the details and stuck in the minutia. You really just want to understand what needs to be done, do it, and keep it moving. Like, that's sort of the energy of Mars. Mars isn't about to linger with certain things. Mars is all about, all right, get it done, move forward, keep moving forward, right? It's all about action. So I feel like as much as you may want to nitpick over the smallest details, or you may get caught up in like the smallest little thing, like, do I put the comma here? Do I do it there? Like, Mars is like, who cares? Keep it moving, right? So that Mars energy may help get you unstuck if you'll tap into it. And the last thing I'll say about this particular transit is that, Mars is very opinionated. Mars has, when it comes to your desire, like, that's all you see, that's all you want. And with Virgo being very perfectionist and kind of know it all, you may have people sort of acting that way. They may be like very opinionated. People may be very opinionated about what you're doing or what you're working on. They may be very critical of what you're working on. It may also be the case where you are overly critical about yourself or to yourself with respect to what you're doing. So you don't want to get too caught up in critique. You don't want to get caught up into sort of like this know-it-all kind of energy, or going back and forth with people on why you're right about what you want. And there never needs to be an explanation with respect to what you want. What you want is your opinion, and it doesn't need to be argued with people about, right? Like, you want something, unless it involves the other person and they have a say so in it, right? Like, if you want something, don't feel like you need to overly explain yourself or get people to really understand. Like, just do you and just put your head down, get to work, and they'll appreciate the results, right? It's usually the case that when we tell certain people what we want to do or what we want to accomplish, they're either trying to kick us while we're down, discourage us, or throw a monkey wrench in what we're doing, right? And Mars, that Mars energy will want to combat that. That Mars energy will want to fight them, will want to defend ourselves and be like, no, I want this because of this. Who gives a fuck? Like, honestly, you want something, just do it. It's when you accomplish the thing that people are usually like, oh yeah, that's such a great idea, or I knew you could do it. And it's like, girl, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You were the first person to tell me, oh, you can't do that. Or why do you want to do that? Nah, let the results speak for themselves. In the meantime, just do the work and enjoy it, right? So next up, we've got Mercury opposite Pluto, okay? And this transit can feel a little intense because anytime we have Pluto in the mix, we're always talking about intensity because we're either talking about an ending, a new beginning, or things just transforming in a very profound way. All right. So it creates a battle of ideas within your mind or between competitors. So this could be sort of the way that I see this is like not being able to come to a decision about something, especially something profound. It could be sort of going to battle with people on a particular idea. Okay. So we've got Mercury, which is in Cancer. Right. Mercury is in Cancer and Pluto is in Capricorn. So that Capricorn Cancer axis has a lot to do with like public and private. Capricorn has to do with achievement. It has to do with sort of your public life. Whereas Cancer has to do with your emotions and your inner life and your inner world. Okay. And so there may be that theme may be playing out in your life in terms of something that you may want to achieve work-wise may be at odds with like your home life or your family life, right? It all depends on where it's going down in your chart, but that's sort of how that axis of Capricorn and Cancer tend to play out, okay? And again, it's because there is this sort of change, profound change that's happening. And sort of the way that people are perceiving that change may be different, which is what's causing this opposition. Okay. This is a great time for research, investigation, uncovering things, stuff like that. But because it creates this difference in perception in people's minds, you sort of have people wanting to persuade others to sort of see things their way. And in doing that, people may resort to things like manipulation. They may, mind control, threats, things like that. So this has a potential to be a somewhat treacherous transit. Although if you don't necessarily have to engage with people on that level. If someone sees things differently than you do, or if something's going on and people are perceiving it in different ways, let people have their opinions, let people have their experiences, and let that be that. You don't necessarily have to convince people, because the thing with Pluto is whatever transformation is going on, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about it, right? It's going to happen regardless. So this is really a time to just sort of let things work out and not try so much to get people to agree with you or to get people to or persuade people to see things a certain way, in my opinion, right? Someone said, which aspect is she on? Which planets? I'm on Mercury opposite Pluto right now, and this is going down today. Another thing with respect to this transit is that it's good for engaging in psychological self-analysis or relationship counseling, okay? So especially because this is going down Capricorn Cancer. Cancer has a lot to do with our family life, our family dynamic, right? Just generally speaking. There may be... I would say that one of the best ways to use the energy of this transit is to really dive deep into perhaps any family issues, any trauma or something like that. Pluto is great for getting to sort of the root of things, especially the root of trauma, of repressed emotions and things like that. So being that we're still in Cancer season, this may be the time to really start understanding why certain people in your family do the things that they do, or why you seem to do certain things that you, maybe because it's like a family thing or a lineage thing. Sort of understanding the psychology behind that, or at least starting to delve into the psychology behind that, is a great way to sort of use this energy, all right, or use the energy of this transit. The other thing is that, I said that there's this transformation going on and everyone's perceiving it differently. whenever Pluto and Mercury meet up, whether it's an opposition, a trine, whatever kind of aspect it is, it can lend itself to having intense mental abilities, meaning that you can be really persuasive, or you can be very magnetic in terms of what you say. All right. And so this may give people a lot more mental power depending on where it is in your chart and, all other different factors. So, but however, understanding how to use that mental power is key, because using it in a subversive kind of way is only going to come back and bite you. Even if you feel like you need to use it for survival, you need to use it because you feel like you're at a disadvantage, it'll always come back to bite you in the ass. The power that Pluto bestows is meant to be used benevolently. It can be used subversively as well, but it can get very, very ugly. And again, it'll only come back to bite you in the ass. Like if you are trying to subjugate people, if you are trying to play mind games with people or threaten people, it's but so far that you can go with that. Like Pluto will let you win in the short term, but in the long term, that shit is going to come back and destroy you. It's like a wrecking ball, right? Pluto energy is like a wrecking ball. So keep that in mind, okay? Let's see, what else do I have here? I have the truth may be hidden by secrecy or propaganda, and it is reasonable not to take anything at face value and investigate both sides of the equation. This really goes back to what I was just saying before about there being this change and people perceiving it in a particular way, and people really trying to get you on their team or really convince you to perceive this change in a particular way. All right. Don't just take things at face value. There's more than meets the eye, especially when Pluto is involved. So it behooves you to do your research. It behooves you to really understand what's really going on. Because again, people may be talking the talk to get you on their team or to get you to do what they want you to do. So it's up to you to be diligent to do the research and figure out what exactly is going on and then make your own determination. All right. So that's Mercury opposite Pluto. Then today we also have Mars trine the North Node. All right. And so it's interesting. This bodes well with Mars entering Virgo, right? So Mars is at 0 degrees Virgo. The North Node is at 0 degrees Taurus. So both Virgo and Taurus are earth signs. This is really about taking practical action steps towards the things that you desire. And the beautiful thing is that because Mars is trying the North Node, your desires may be in alignment with where you are trying to go, like with your life purpose or your soul mission. And so you may feel very amped. You may feel very motivated. You may feel very purposeful in terms of what you want to accomplish, what you want to have. And if you do that, now is the perfect time to either put pen to paper, to take that first step, to take some sort of step, some action step, not just put a plan together, but take some sort of action towards the thing that you are desirous of. Like I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to whatever, but over the last couple of days, Spirit has revealed to me something that I should be doing. And it's something that I have wanted to do for a while, but the way that my life has been set up, I think that it would really shock people. And so the idea came to me today to just do this one thing to get the ball rolling. And so after this is done, I'm actually going to start that. But it's interesting because this is something that I've wanted to do. And then it's like Spirit sort of reminded me that, hey, this is something you wanted to do. I think you should do it. It's like in alignment with where you're trying to go, right? So it's a great day. Don't just take action all willy-nilly, right? Because here's the thing with Mars energy. Mars is very impulsive. Mars thinks of something and it's like, let's go. Or Mars feels something and it's like, yes, I want to do this. No, this is because we're talking about the North Node, and the North Node is all about our life purpose. You kind of want to check in with your higher self first. You kind of want to do some meditation. You kind of want to, get in alignment and see, all right, is this really what I should be doing? Like, allow Spirit to co-create with you. It's a desire that perhaps Spirit wants to experience through you. So it sort of makes sense that you would check in with Spirit before taking that action step. So I really think that you want to do that, or at least maybe you're not so sure about what you want to do, right? Maybe you have a desire, but you don't know necessarily if it's in alignment. You don't know if it's your life purpose or your soul mission. The best way to answer that is to check in with your higher self. Your higher self will always give you the answer, right? So, yeah, that's definitely what you should do. So your strengths are going to be amplified at this time. So, it's always best to lead with your strengths. So it's like you'll definitely not have any issues like acting independently or taking those action steps. But again, I feel like you're going to want to check in with spirit before you just start acting willy-nilly and doing things that, may not take you off course, but may like derail you, or you don't want to be unnecessarily risky, right? This may involve taking a bit of a risk, right? Anytime we're starting something new, it does involve a certain level of risk, but you don't want to be reckless, right? And I think that that's what checking in with spirit sort of prevents. It prevents you from just being overly reckless and cannot, all over the place. Let's see. This also may be a time where this motivation that you may feel will help you get through and over obstacles and hurdles. So it's not to say that this is going to be like, oh, everything's in alignment, it's going to be easy. There may be obstacles in your way, but the way that Mars energy is, it's like it'll help you bulldoze through those things. Again, that's how you're going to know if you're in alignment with your desires, because if you hit a wall, if you're not in alignment with desires, like you usually feel like giving up, right? You're kind of just like, yeah, this is too hard. Or my favorite, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Have you ever felt that way? Like, you're on the right path, but maybe you just don't have the motivation to keep going. And so you hit a wall and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Or maybe this is spirit's way of telling me no. And spirit is usually like, girl, no. You're not supposed to stop at the obstacle. You're supposed to power through it. But thankfully with Mars, you will have the motivation to do so. And again, that's how you'll know if you're in alignment or if you're in alignment with your desires. Okay. Let's see. And here's the thing, in bulldozing through those obstacles, it'll sort of give you the motivation and the determination to keep going. That's why I love Mars energy, because it gives you that energy to start. And once you get a little bit of traction, it sort of keeps you going. It sort of gives you the physical strength sometimes to keep going. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen with this Mars trine North Node transit. All right. And I have here, if there is anything that will truly work against you at this time, it will be a desire to speed through to the next phase before you have fully integrated lessons and developed your plan. Okay. So the other thing here is that, sort of like what I said before, Mars can be very impulsive. Mars, I think I talked about this when I was talking about Mars and Virgo. Mars is very, it's not going to stop for the lessons. It's not going to be like, okay, let me see what's going on. Mars is just going to want to power through. So it may have you moving forward without getting everything that you possibly need. But that may be okay for right now, because it's better to move forward than to stop and have to learn something and then get discouraged and then get derailed. And then before you know it, months have gone by and you're not on track again. Like right now, the energy is movement. The energy is momentum. The energy is like a freight train that can't stop. I think the best use of the energy is just to keep moving forward. And I feel like in doing that, that'll get the ball rolling. And so again, when you hit those obstacles, you easily power through them rather than just stopping and saying, oh, I shouldn't be doing this or whatever. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's sort of the best use of that energy. And finally, what we have today is the moon moving into Taurus. So this is the last quarter phase. And during the last quarter phase, we sort of reevaluate the intentions that we had set at the new moon. And so think back to the last new moon, or maybe you want to think back to, I guess, the new moon in Taurus. Do I want to say that? Maybe. Well, anyway, you're going to think back to some new moon and the intention that you set and kind of see where you're at with that, right? Like, what foundation have you built regarding those intentions set at the new moon? because Taurus is all about building. It's all about building that foundation. Excuse me. So this is sort of where you take stock of how far you come, what work that you've put in, and what work you still need to do in order to bring that new moon intention to fruition. Okay. But apart from that, I love when the moon is in Taurus, because this is the time when you just chill, the time when you relax. It's Netflix and chill. It's being comfortable. It's remaining in your comfort zone and resting, really. So tonight is a great night for that. So I would definitely suggest that you kind of leave the work to the side, get cozy, get comfortable, and just relax. Because what I love about the moon in Taurus is that it reminds us that we need rest. It reminds us that we can stop and smell the roses, that we can just be comfortable and cozy for a little bit. All right. So that was a lot for Monday. All right. So let's move on to Tuesday and see what else we've got. All right. So on Tuesday, tomorrow, we've got Mercury entering Leo, and you will see that at the upper left-hand corner of the chart. And then we have Mercury square the North Node. So again, Mercury just moving into Leo. It will be square the North Node at 0 degrees Taurus. Okay. So like I said before, we are at the point where the nodes are about to change signs. So again, look to see where Taurus is in your chart. That's where the North Node currently is. This is the closing of the chapter. This chapter that began at the tail end of 2021. This chapter is closing. Another is set to begin. And so right now with Mercury, let's talk about Mercury square the North Node first. Mercury square the North Node is kind of like, all right, this chapter is ending. You're sort of seeing where you need to go, but maybe your thoughts are not on board with that. Maybe there's some friction between sort of where you're going and where you're at, okay? This may also be a time when you're overly analyzing things, particularly with respect to what you need to be doing, where you're headed. I feel like Mercury square the North Node kind of has you really over analyzing things, overthinking things. One of the things that the North Node is sort of known for is that it provides opportunity. North Node expands us. It's sort of a point of expansion in our natal charts. It's sort of what we grow into, what we become. And one of the ways to do that is through opportunities, typically opportunities that we've never had before. That's sort of emblematic of that North Node energy. So the North Node is giving you opportunities for expansion. The North Node is giving you opportunities to have, do, and be what it is you're here to have, do, and be, right? But when you've got Mercury square the North Node, this is like overthinking it, or over analyzing this opportunity to the point where you just don't take advantage of it. So it's almost like the opportunity just passes you by. And it's like analysis paralysis, right? It's like, and I find that this tends to happen a lot, especially when you're on your spiritual journey, right? Because new opportunities, it's like a whole world opens up to you, right? But then your logical brain gets involved and it's like, okay, is this a sign? Is this a synchronicity? Like, should I be talking to this person? Is this gonna, like, you have so many questions, right? Like, and I think that's just natural. But when you get to the point where those questions and that logical analysis sort of gets you, like, it takes you away from whatever it is, whatever door is opening. And then you end up missing the opportunity. So basically, understand that there is room for thinking about things. It's not just an opportunity shows up and you're just like, oh, let's go. Like, that would be like a Mars North Node situation where Mars doesn't really think about it. Mars just goes, right? Mars is very impulsive. Mercury needs to think about things, and that's a good thing, right? Because an opportunity comes up, you should think about it. You should weigh your options, but don't allow the overthinking to get you to miss an open door. I think that's the best way to sum up this energy. It could also have you like kind of stuck in the details too. Like, that's another way to miss this opportunity, is that you are, okay, I'll give you a perfect example, even though this sounds kind of weird. You are like, you want a steak, right? Beautiful steak. Like, it's a tomahawk steak, so you know it's huge. And if you're a vegan, I'm sorry, but huge tomahawk steak. It is grilled to perfection. It's looking gorgeous. But then you notice that the plate looks kind of, you don't really like the presentation. The parsley looks very wilted. You're wondering if this is old, if it's been sitting out. Did they just grill this, or has it been sitting under a heating lamp for a while? What kind of sauce is that? The plate looks a little chipped. Is the plate dirty? And you're missing the whole steak. And in the meantime, the steak is getting cold, and then your appetite for the steak just kind of goes away, right? Because you're all in these little details. That's kind of how this transit works. You're given an opportunity, but because it doesn't show up in the package that you wanted it to, you're like, I don't know about this. I just don't know. Maybe this isn't what I should be doing, right? As we always try to psych ourselves out. Or you may be embroiled in certain details that are just really irrelevant. And it, again, makes you miss this opportunity. So here's the thing with this transit. If opportunity shows itself, weigh your options and then make a decision. Don't spend too much time over analyzing or thinking about details that are really bullshit or details that really don't matter. Now is the time to seize opportunities, because when we're talking about the North Node, it's opportunities for growth. It's opportunities to get you to where you want to be. And our limited minds, our limited human minds cannot fathom the grandeur that God and the universe has in store for us. And when we try to analyze these things, that's when we get lost in the sauce, lost in the details, and then we lose these opportunities. So whatever comes your way, take advantage of it and don't overanalyze it. All right. Okay. So next up, we've got Mercury entering Leo. Okay. And I think I pretty much talked the major points about this earlier. All right. But our thinking is more grand and confident. This is people grandstanding. This is people really being theatrical with the way that they say things. It's people being overly dramatic. So you'll want to pay attention to sort of how you communicate with people, because people just may be in the mood to be extra. They may just be in the mood to be overly dramatic, maybe in an attempt to persuade people for things. Okay. But by and large, this particular transit is about speaking authentically from the heart. There's a lot of energy concerned with our desires right now. We've got Mars in Virgo. We've got Mercury in Leo. We've got the sun about to go into Leo. Has a lot to do with our desires, has a lot to do with pleasure, has a lot to do with having fun, right? And so Mercury in Leo, it's great for again, speaking from the heart. It's great for this it carries this energy signature of innocence, right? Because Leo energy has a lot to do with children, childhood. So you may find that during this transit, you get in touch with your inner child, or maybe you're communicating more with children. It's one of those transits where we don't really think about details. We think more about the bigger picture, but not in a philosophical kind of way. We sort of just gloss over details because details are boring. Okay. But also, like I said before, there's this level of confidence that Leo energy has. And so when Mercury is in Leo, it allows us to speak a lot more confidently, not even just from the heart, but anything that we speak of, we can speak with a sense of regality. We can speak with a sense of confidence, with a sense of high self-esteem, right? So this is literally say it with your chest. If I had to sum up this particular transit in a sentence, it would be say it with your chest. All right. It allows us to be more expressive, especially when it comes to things that we're passionate about. Even in romantic situations, we can be a lot more expressive with our words. We can be more confident. We can be more dramatic. I feel like this particular transit, Mercury in Leo, it's just fun and very interesting. You're going to want to pay attention to how people speak, particularly about themselves, okay? Because Leo has a lot to do with attention seeking. People may seem to grandstand, but very much about themselves, sort of big themselves up, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this transit plays out with respect to how people speak, especially when people talk about their accomplishments, when people talk about their work and what they do. I'm not going to say that people are going to straight up lie, but I will say that this particular transit sort of fosters embellishing a bit, making yourself seem a lot better than you really are. And in the dating sphere, you're definitely going to want to be careful with this, okay? Because this is, I'm not going to say it's necessarily catfishing, but I will say that people will put forth their very best representative. And then you'll find out later that that representative may not be emblematic of who they truly are. However, that being said, because Leo is very heart-centered energy, this allows you to form stronger bonds with people, because when you can really speak from the heart, be authentically yourself, you can form stronger bonds. So this bodes very well for relationships. It bodes for any type of relationship, really. But because Leo has a lot to do with romance, this has a lot to do with romantic relationships. So it can get you, and it's not going to be lovey-dovey either. Leo's not lovey-dovey, but Leo is like, listen, this is how I really feel. This is what I really want. And say it with confidence, right? So it can really do wonders for relationships of all types, but definitely for romantic relationships. And then the last thing I'll say about this particular transit is that it lends itself to like speaking and not listening. So you'll have a lot of people talking just to talk, talking to hear themselves speak, but people not really listening to each other. So if you find that to be the case, you might just want to reiterate what you're saying, or kind of wait till this transit passes to talk about something really important or talk about something really substantive. But by and large, it's a great transit to have fun and date. So you should definitely do that. All right. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right. So on Wednesday, we've got the Sun square Chiron. So we've got the Sun at 19 degrees Cancer, and we've got Chiron at 19 degrees Aries. All right. So Sun square Chiron, your desire to stand apart as an individual and a creative leader is at odds with your deeper insecurities. Okay, so Chiron is known as the wounded healer. It's really the insecurities, the fears, the hangups that we have about ourselves, but it's those same hangups that we can help other people with. So for instance, let's say you have Chiron in your first house, the first house of self. You may have low self-esteem, but you are someone who could always big up other people. You are someone who could help people find their self-esteem and make them feel good about themselves. Meanwhile, you struggle with that yourself. Like, that is basically the quick and dirty on Chiron. Now, this particular transit tends to be emotional because the Sun is in Cancer. So when it comes to standing out, trying new things, we sort of really feel the sting of past traumas, past hurts, and past insecurities. So it's almost like trying to start something new, but then being like, oh, but the last time I tried that didn't work. Or the last time I did that, like, people made fun of me. So it's like, what is the saying? Once bitten, twice shy. That's kind of how this transit kind of works. This is sort of, so this note that I have right here is, rather than trying to be perfect or suppressing your past wounds, this is a time to use the natural friction between your longing for the spotlight and your feelings of imperfection and show your authentic gifts and individuality. Essentially, what that means is that rather than trying to show up perfectly, show people your authentic process. It's almost like working through the insecurities and showing that is what allows people to be comfortable with their own insecurities. That's how leaders lead. It's not by saying, do this and do that. Meanwhile, the leader doesn't do it themselves. The leader is like, listen, I overcame this because I did X, Y, and Z, and this was my process. And then people are like, oh, that makes sense. Now I can do the same thing and, do whatever, right? So this is really about being your authentic self, like showing up messy, basically, is what sort of helps you get through the insecurities themselves, but it also teaches others how to get through the insecurities. Okay, so this could be pretty eye-opening in terms of your own insecurities, but it could also be very eye-opening for others, because in conquering your insecurities, you teach other people how to do the same. That's exactly how Chiron works. So much can be accomplished with this particular transit, but it's not going to feel good, right? It's going to feel, it's going to bring up past pains, past insecurities, past traumas. But again, showing up authentically and working through it not only helps you, but it helps others as well. All right. So basically, that is the gist of that particular transit. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so on Thursday, we have the moon moving into Gemini, right? And you'll see that the upper, sort of middle, left-hand portion of the chart, all right? So when the moon is in Gemini, it's very mixy energy. If you've watched any of my lives before, I always tell people Gemini energy is mixy. It's sort of all over the place. It's all about socializing. It's all about multitasking. What I love about Gemini energy is that it loves to learn. So we derive our emotional fulfillment. When the moon is in Gemini, we derive our emotional fulfillment from learning new things, from communicating with people, from transacting business, from teaching, from learning, from thinking. It's like our minds are kind of going a mile a minute and we feel good about that, right? So any sort of mental activities really thrive when the moon is in Gemini. So researching, writing, speaking, journaling, all of those things thrive when the moon is in Gemini. Now, because the moon is in the waning crescent phase, this is about reflection. The waning phase, right? Because we're making our way to the new moon, which is coming next week. It's all about letting go. It's all about surrender. But because the moon is in Gemini, it's almost like whatever we're surrendering, whatever we're letting go of, we're sort of reflecting. We're reflecting and we're re-examining things. We're going over things again and figuring out what needs to stay and what needs to go, particularly with our emotions, right? We like to, it's almost like relearning certain skills, or let me not say relearning certain skills. That's not, it's like my mind is actually running a mile a minute right now. And I'm thinking of like, sort of like when you clean out your computer and then you upload or you re-upload a program, or you update a program. That's sort of how like the waning moon in Gemini works. It's sort of you have the ability to sort of get rid of outdated ideas and upload new ones. You learn new skills. You maybe talk to new people. You socialize with new people. Okay. So it's time to sort of surrender the things that are no longer serving you, especially mentally. That's why it's a great time to do some reflection, because it allows you to think about what has transpired, where you want to go, and whether your ideas, whether your thoughts, whether your internal chatter is in alignment with where you want to go, or is it in alignment with your old story? So whenever the moon is in Gemini, you have the opportunity to sort of eradicate that old story and upload a new program, upload a new story, change your way of thinking so that it is in alignment with what you want. But by and large, Gemini energy, it's mixy, it's multitasky. It's a great time to socialize and communicate with people. So that's exactly what you should do when the moon is in Gemini. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. And then on Friday, we have the sun sextile Uranus. So the sun is at 22 degrees Cancer and Uranus is at 22 degrees Taurus. All right. And so this is fun and surprises, good surprises. Okay. I love that this is going down on Friday because it's another time when, if you listen to last week's weekly forecast, we had Mercury sextile Uranus, and this was sort of expecting the unexpected, deviating from your normal routine, all that good stuff. This is sort of the continuation of this, right? So it brings pleasant surprises, stimulating encounters. It's a good time to try something new and exciting. And so being that it's a Friday, again, if you want to deviate from your normal schedule, do so. This is a time to follow your intuition. It also lends itself to increased self-awareness. So this is a great time for improving yourself. It's almost like suddenly realizing where you need improvement or suddenly realizing what you need to tweak in your life, right? It's like an aha moment, but really more on a personal level. Okay. There's going to be flashes of insight. You can get positive feedback that you might not normally get, interesting interactions with people, Creativity is stimulated. It could, and I also feel like your intuition is going to be very loud and clear. Okay. Especially because the sun is in Cancer. Cancer is a very intuitive and watery sign. It's one of those days where you can really trust how you feel, because how you feel is definitely not going to steer you wrong. It's definitely not going to deceive you. Like, I feel like your intuition is going to be really in alignment with your emotions on that day. The usual stuff whenever you're talking about Uranus, like socializing, meeting new people, talking to people you normally wouldn't talk to, curiosity, perhaps discovering new things. Again, sort of a continuation of that energy from last week. Sticking to a routine may be difficult, and maybe it's a sign that you need to veer away from a certain routine. So again, if you have friends that you haven't talked to in a long time and they call you and on a whim, you guys, they tell you that they want to go out or there's a concert to go to or whatever, like, you might want to take advantage of that, because that definitely might be the reset that you need. Or you may encounter someone where you have an interesting conversation where it's just the thing that you needed to hear, or a piece of advice that you could use later on, that sort of thing. That's how Uranus usually works. It's also about finding new ways of doing things. I said that there is this aha moment with Uranus. So this transit also lends itself to things like innovations, inventions, and things like that. So follow your intuitive nudges, follow your hunches. If you get an inkling about something, it may lead to some sort of interesting discovery. So all in all, I feel like Friday is going to be a pretty interesting day. But above all else, you will definitely want to follow your intuition and veer away from your routine. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right, and then finally we close out the week on Saturday with the moon in its home sign of Cancer, and you will see that at the upper right hand portion of the charts. All right, so moon in Cancer, it's moody, it's emotional. Whenever the moon is in Cancer, you kind of just want to relax. You have this instinctive need for sort of peace and quiet. It almost feels like moon in Taurus. However, moon in Cancer, it just really has you in your feelings. It's the moon's home sign, like I said before. It also, a lot of times, I know for me, and I'm very diligent about tracking the moon and how I feel and what's going on. There's something about the moon in Cancer that has a very strong healing potential. Between when the moon is in Cancer and the moon is in Scorpio, it's like shadow work. It's, addressing your emotional needs. There's a great healing potential when the moon is in Cancer. So it sort of behooves you to sort of spend some quiet time, reflecting, thinking about your basic emotional needs and everything that goes along with that, right? And again, because we're in the waning phase of the moon, this is about letting go of things that no longer serve us. If something is not in alignment with your basic emotional needs, and by basic emotional needs, I mean like love, shelter, acceptance, food, all of those things. If it's not in alignment with that, then maybe it needs to go at this time. Like, maybe it doesn't need your attention. Maybe it's something that you don't need to address at this time. Apart from that, whenever the moon is in Cancer, it's great for domestic activities. Again, staying at home, doing things at home, being comfortable, being cozy, and feeling safe and secure. I feel like above all else, moon in Cancer is all about feeling safe and secure. And that's how we end the week. All right. So again, lots going on today. But I think that this is one of those weeks. Again, if you are desirous of something, especially with Mars just entering Virgo, I feel like it's going to be one of those weeks where you can actually really get stuff done, and you could really sort of gain some traction with respect to the things that you want to have, which is really great in my book. All right. And so now that we've got the astrology out of the way, I'm going to pull some cards for us for messages from Spirit. Of course, I always do this by sign, but Whether it resonates with your sun, moon, rising, Jupiter, Mars, doesn't matter. If the message resonates, it resonates. So just take it. All right. So first up, as always, we've got Aries. So let's see what we've got for Aries for this week. All right, Aries, we've got the King of Wands. You guys are extremely determined, okay? So your ruling planet is Mars. So with Mars in Virgo, you guys are super determined. You guys are super confident. You guys have your eyes on something and you are like fired up, amped, and ready to go. I feel like you guys are perfectly poised for a successful outcome in whatever this thing is, whatever you've got your eye on, whatever you're desirous of. I see it like the chance of it coming to fruition and coming to fruition relatively quickly is very high. So keep that motivation, keep that same energy, keep your eyes on the prize, but don't skimp over the work. Some of you may be really, Virgo energy has a lot to do with the details. Some of you may really be trying to gloss over details or like skip steps. And Spirit is like, I know you're amped. I know you're motivated, but don't skip any steps. Do the work that you may not feel like doing. And that is how things will come to fruition a lot faster for you. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, next up, we've got Taurus. Let's see what we have for Taurus for this week. All right, Taurus, you've got two cards. You've got the King of Cups. And you've got the Emperor. Okay, so some of you are looking to, I'm hearing commitment with this King of Cups. So some of you are looking to commit to something or someone. And I feel like you're being very strategic about it. Perhaps what you're desiring, right? Because I feel like, again, the Emperor is emblematic of Aries. Aries and Mars go hand in hand. I feel like some of you, what you're desiring is a relationship, a committed relationship of some sort. And I feel like you are like the army general. You are like being strategic and figuring out what you need to do in order to have this commitment, right? And I think that what I'm hearing is don't be too rigid in the sense that whatever plan you have, like I'm hearing plan of attack, whatever plan of attack you have, that's fine. But don't feel like you need to stick to it like the letter of the law. Like be a little flexible. Don't be so rigid. It's not a competition. Some of you are, okay, this is interesting what I'm hearing. Some of you are applying this pressure like an army general because you are trying to eliminate competition. So I'm hearing like, okay, you want to commit to someone, but it's like you don't want that person to be with anybody else. Like you're afraid of competition or you are cognizant of competition. And so that's why you're like this army general. And Spirit is like, that's not necessarily the best way to approach it. Yes, you need to have some sort of strategy, but don't think of it in terms of a competition. When you think of it in terms of competition, that's when things kind of fall apart. So it's great to have this desire to have commitment, but don't be so rigid about it. Allow Spirit in to help you, and you won't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Next up, we've got Gemini. Let's see what we've got for Gemini for this week. All right, Gemini, we've got the Fool. You guys have your head in the clouds about something. You guys are about to embark on a new journey and you are just about to, I feel it's almost this giddiness that I feel with this. Like you're ready to just jump off the cliff. It's something that you're particularly, and when I say emotional, I don't mean like you feel really good about it. It's something that you feel really good about. You like the sun is shining. You're confident. You may have assistants with you. You see this little dog right here. Dogs represent loyalty. So you may have some sort of loyal friend with you. Like you're just ready to just take the leap. And Spirit is like, just go for it. Like take the leap with whatever this is. Nice. I like that energy for you, Gemini. Right? Ooh, at the bottom of the deck, we have the 9 of Cups. It's something that you really want. It's like you're taking the leap into something that you really, really want, that really emotionally fulfills you. And Spirit is like, I love this for you. Just go for it. All right. All right. Next up, we've got Cancer. Let's see what we've got for Cancer for this week. All right, Cancer, we've got the 7 of Cups. So you guys have a lot of options, right? But you're not sure which options are valid or which options are worth pursuing. So when it comes to what you desire, I get the sense that you've got quite a few things that you desire or that you want to achieve, right? But some of these things are arguably more important than others. And all of these options are just attributing to your sense of confusion. Like you are just like, it's almost like your energy feels very scattered. Like I could do this, I could do that. I want this, I want that. And Spirit's like, okay, like you can have it all, but maybe not all right now. And maybe it would behoove you to sort of focus, like narrow that focus to 1 or 2 things. Okay. There's one option in particular, and I'm being drawn to this thing right here. I'm hearing all that glitters isn't gold. It's an option that may seem to be like it seems too good to be true, and it may be because it is. Like you see how this thing is cloaked, right? And you're like, oh, because it's so shiny, like there's all this stuff around it, it must be really important. And then you take off that cloak and there's like nothing there. So there's one particular option that it's really an empty option. And I think that you know what this is. Again, if it feels or sounds too good to be true, I think it is. But you do have other viable options. So even if this particular option doesn't work out, you've got a whole bunch of other options. But again, you're going to want to narrow your focus, and that will help dispel some of this confusion that you're feeling. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got Leo. Let's see what we have for Leo for this week. Okay, Leo. Interesting. We've got the King of Swords and we've got the 2 of Cups. Interesting. I'm getting 2 different things. For someone is very decisive with respect to a relationship. You're like, yes, this is it. This is what I want. This is what I want to work on. This is who I want to be with. Yes. For others of you, you're very decisive. You're very decisive about not being in a relationship. So for some, you're like, this relationship is not for me. I don't like this one. This is not my person. Okay. Either way, you are extremely decisive. Like you're like, I know exactly what I want and exactly what I don't want when it comes to a particular relationship. Okay. And look at this. Doesn't this look like a lion's head? This is definitely this Venus in Leo energy. So for some or majority of you Leos, I definitely think that this is a romantic relationship that is coming back around. It's an ex-lover. It's an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. And for some, you're like, yes, the time apart has allowed me to realize that I've missed you in my life and I need you in my life. For others, it's like, hell no. The time apart has been great. It made me realize how I really didn't need you in my life, right? But either way, you're extremely decisive on whatever this relationship is that's coming back around. So keep that same energy and don't fall for whatever it's almost like I feel like this person may be whispering sweet nothings to you or telling you what you want to hear, because you Leos, you know you love it when people admire you, when people big you up, right? I feel like this person knows exactly how to get to you. And you may be like, nah, I don't want this person, but they say exactly what you want to hear. And you're like, maybe, nah. Your instinct is correct, regardless of what this person is saying or regardless of however they're trying to persuade you to be with them. Stick to your guns. All right. Next up, we've got Virgo. Let's see what we have for Virgo for this week. Virgo. All right, Virgo, we've got the Devil. You do not want to know what I am hearing right now. What I'm hearing right now is crazy. However, Virgo, there is a taboo side to you that you may be exploring this week. This is not bad by any means, but it's like You, Virgo, and I say this as a Virgo sun, you like to show up very polished. You like to show up very perfect. You like to show up very Virgo, right? But sometimes underneath the surface, you got a lot of this going on. A lot of this sexual energy, a lot of this kinkiness that most people really don't know about you. And I feel like I feel like spirit is telling my business right now. This is this energy that I feel like you are tapped into this week. And you should use this to your advantage. And when I say use it to your advantage, it's that raw sexual energy that you can transmute into creativity. So I feel like this is a week where you're feeling very sexual. I feel like this is a week where you are tapping into your taboo sexual side. And I feel like you could really transmute this energy into something beautifully creative. So this is going to be a creative week for you if you allow yourself to really sit in this energy. All right. Interesting. Next up, we've got Libra. Let's see what we've got for Libra for this week. Libra. We've got the sun. I'm hearing that song from Annie, The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. It's this energy of positivity. It's like I want to say the rainbow after the rain, but I feel like it's the end of the storm. I feel like things have been rocky, things have been stormy, and I feel like finally the sun is coming back out again. So I feel like you're going to feel warm, you're going to feel energized, and I feel like you're just going to feel positive. So there may be a positive event that overshadows a negative event. This could be, you've been through a time of hardship and now finally the sun is coming out and it's like positivity going forward. But either way, I feel like things are looking up for you this week. So enjoy it. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Don't think, oh my gosh, something good is happening. I'm sure that something bad is going to happen, or downplay this positivity. Don't do that. Enjoy your time in the sun. All right. Don't, wish for the storm to come back again. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got Scorpio. Let's see what we've got for Scorpio for this week. Scorpio, we've got the 9 of Swords and we've got Temperance. This message is so loud and clear. Because you do not see something yet in the physical does not mean that it is not coming. You are sort of stressing yourself out. You're up late at night because you're like, listen, I've put in all this hard work. I don't see it yet. It hasn't manifested yet. And Spirit is like, hold on. We're still mixing things together. We're still alchemizing things. We're still putting things together behind the scenes. You don't need to be so stressed. It's coming. Actually, it's here. It's just the finishing touches are being put on this thing. So don't despair. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I put in all this work. I don't see anything. Nothing is happening. It's happening. As a matter of fact, it has happened, but you're just too focused on it not being here yet. And it's causing you stress. And Spirit is like, listen, stop stressing about this. Why don't you do something to take your mind, get yourself out of this sort of energy. Do something to get your mind off of the lack of this thing. And that's when you'll see this thing appear for you. Okay. Okay, that was Scorpio. Now we've got Sagittarius. Let's see what we've got for Sagittarius for this week. Sagittarius, we've got the Ace of Wands. So you guys are creating this week. You guys are starting something completely new. I feel like Spirit is giving you the tools to create something new this week. I'm seeing someone like taking those flint rocks, like doing this with them and starting a fire. It's like Spirit is giving you those rocks. So it's almost like rather than, the example I'm being given right now to explain this to you is you want to create a cake. Spirit is giving you the flour, the eggs, the milk, all that stuff. Don't overlook the fact that you can create the cake because you have the ingredients, because you just want cake, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is there's going to be work that you're going to have to do. You're given the tools to create. Now create. It's not about the thing just showing up. You've got to put in the work. But the resources that you need to create this thing are going to be presented to you this week. So keep your eyes open. Remain open to possibilities. Be ready to take advantage of certain opportunities because it's the beginning of the creation process for you. Okay. Next up, we've got Capricorn. Let's see what we've got for Capricorn for this week. Okay, so Capricorn, we've got the 3 of Wands and we've got the 9 of Wands. Okay, so this is talking about some sort of a process. So you put forth some energy, some effort into something, and you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the results. I'm waiting for the results. I'm waiting for the results. You've waited a long damn time because now we get to here where you're like, damn, I still got to do this. I still have to persist with this. So there's something that you were particularly passionate about that you've been working on. And I feel like at one point you expected a particular return from this thing, right? Like you put in this energy, you expected it to come back to you in a certain way. It hasn't come back in the way that you expected. And now you feel like you have to adjust and you feel kind of aggy about it. You're just like, I don't even know if I want this thing anymore because it's not showing up the way that you originally thought it would show up. But Spirit is like, persist. Even if it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like, persist because you are almost there. This thing is almost to fruition. Yes, it didn't go according to plan. Yes, it doesn't look like how you wanted it to look, but the end result is going to be exactly what you want. So keep pushing with this thing. Don't give up because the packaging sucks, okay? You're a lot closer than you think you are. All right. Next up, we've got Aquarius. Oh, okay, Aquarius. We've got 10 of Cups. So I feel like this is a week where you have a happy home life. You're emotionally fulfilled. I see family is looking really good right now. So I don't know if this is a week where you'll be enjoying time with family or you'll just be feeling all of the emotions that you want to feel with respect to your family. I feel like you're going to feel them. So feeling loved, feeling accepted, feeling together, feeling like part of the group, part of the team. I feel like this is everything that you're going to be feeling this week. I feel like it's going to be an overwhelmingly positive week, a week where your basic emotional needs are going to be met. So it's definitely a great feel-good week for you, Aquarius. All right, so enjoy it. And last but certainly not least, we've got Pisces. Let's see what we've got for Pisces for this week. All right, Pisces. Oh, you also have the 10 of Cups. So great family energy for you too. As well as the Queen of Swords. So I feel like there's going to be some kind of, I'm hearing proclamation. There's going to be some sort of clarity with respect to an issue, and it's going to be good. So it may have to do with a family member. It may have to do with your family in general. It just may be something that makes you feel really good, but I feel like there's going to be clarity. Someone is going to say something to you. You may get advice. You may get, keeping proclamation, like someone proclaims something and it's really good, either for you, a family member, or you and your family members. So I feel like you as well will be enjoying a lot of positivity this week. So keep your ears and I would say keep your ears open for good news, a communication that is favorable, because I feel like it's going to be a positive week for you as well. All right, my loves, it's been a long, we're at an hour and 37 minutes. It's been a long weekly astro forecast this week. All right. So I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going forward into this week. All right. If you are interested in any of my products and services, all of that information is going to be below. If you are interested in getting a natal chart report and consultation, that service is actually linked to this video. So check it out. Book your session. I have open availability for the most part for the rest of the month. So definitely take advantage of that. All right. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate it. Have a wonderful week and I will see you in my next video. All right, my loves. Take care.